migrating to schools simply because around this week, the kind of revelations that have been coming out have been as shocking as they are scary in some instances. But they just go to show the magnitude of the problem that we are dealing with. Lots of parents, many parents probably don't know what happens between home and school. And therefore, that's why it becomes a very pertinent issue that as we guard other areas, I think the place to look at, the place to be careful about is to see what happens between home and school and even within schools themselves. You will see that a website dedicated specifically to deal with this particular issue called Everyone's Invited, and I can actually invite you to visit that website if you haven't. Revelations that are coming out are as scary as they are heartbreaking. Some, going as far as primary schools, but fewer cases in primary schools, lots of cases in secondary schools, in colleges, and then surprise, surprise, or probably unsurprisingly at university level, where you would have thought that probably girls are more mature and therefore probably in a better position to kind of protect or safeguard themselves, but still ending up becoming victims of the situations. A lot of it, if you look at these revelations, I think they are almost reaching 43,000 at the moment. Many testimonies that have come out. This particular website was started by a lady, Sarah, using her own experience, because part of what has been happening is that some, as we shall hear from some of the testimonies, some girls, some boys go and take pictures or videos of girls in very uncompromising situations and then use these pictures. They use these pictures to sort of blackmail these girls into acts that would not have been, acceptable under normal circumstances. So it's revenge porn sometimes, where someone falls out with somebody, they've had a relationship, they use these pictures, images spread out in schools, pushing them into a very difficult situation. Others, either peep onto the girls, they take videos and then they threaten them to make these videos public if they don't do what they want. As a result, they push them into particular, sometimes sexual acts that might be a bit disturbing. Just to warn you that because of the sensitivity of this particular subject, we will try to treat very carefully. And that's why we've got a child psychologist who is going to help us navigate into some of these difficult territories. But as parents, sometimes, because you don't know what is going on with your children, we are either very busy, in our work within shift situations, running up and down, and therefore failing to have the telltale signs. And because I'm a man, to discuss something to do with sexual abuse, of course, it's done mainly by men. But then, of course, to understand it and probably put it into perspective, some girls, some women, some ladies might find it more comfortable to speak through the voices of the women. And that's why I have two ladies in the studio, co-presenters on other shows, but now coming in to sit side by side with me. And that is Mrs. Shamim, who is in the studio with me, as well as Mariam. If you can say hi to the people, please.
Hi,
Assalamu alaikum. So I'll be throwing back and forth to sort of hear the kind of experiences, just reading through the messages. Mariam has been looking at many of the testimonies that have come on the website. We are selective about which ones we'll be reading out, but they will help us at least to navigate into this kind of very difficult territory. Some of the revelations, are kind of heartbreaking. Some of them might be revealing. Many of us parents are so innocent, not knowing what happens. But it will also be interesting, and therefore I've asked some parents to come on with their children, because the kind of experiences that they face in schools mean that sometimes they don't open up to the parents. Actually, that is also one particular thing that has come out in the testimonies. They come back home, they are so scared, especially with African families. So when you get to African families, we do not open up to our parents. We do not feel so free as to discuss some of the intimate or pertinent issues that affect us. And therefore, the girls come in, they've been threatened, they've been coerced, and then they are so fearful of even speaking to their parents, in a situation where speaking to a parent probably would have been a best position. But even with teachers in schools, I think you would be wondering if a child, if a girl, even a boy, because there might be particular instances where that happens, if a child comes and reports to you about a particular scenario that seems inappropriate, you as a teacher, what have you done? what measures are in place in schools to allow sort of the teachers to deal with these very difficult aspects? It will be very interesting to hear from you as parents. Probably if you had a situation that a child raised, you raised it with the school, would like to hear how they took up this issue. Or as a school, maybe, how do you communicate with the parents to be able to break it down to the parents as well, to be able to address some of these things? Lots of bleedings, a few bleedings into the conversation. But this was just preparing you, because we are going to navigate a rather difficult area, and therefore I can only prepare you that inshallah bi'idhnillah, it is important that we get to speak about these things. Of course, we're treating it with all the sensitivity that it deserves, but it is important that we speak about it, especially for parents to come out. And if there are any children out there with their parents, alongside your parents, who would want to sort of, talk about, probably it might not be necessarily about you, it's about the experiences. Now, for the protection and for legal reasons, I'll also emphasize that we shall not name names of schools, for example, or names of individuals. Let's leave that out and just talk about the general situation. So if you come on, you might decide just not to use your name, just use a code name if you're going to be making particular revelations. But maybe just to give you an insight, Isma, we good? Yeah, let's just have a look at part of what has been happening in the news, because speaking to some parents, I was actually shocked that several parents didn't even know this was happening. The moment it was flagged, people were saying, where is it happening? When did it happen? Maybe just to bring our own brains up to date with what is happening, let's just take a look at some of what is going on out there. Thank you. I don't seem to be hearing any sound. Can you hear any sound? No. Yeah, the video doesn't seem to have sound on. If you can bear with us, we'll just see what's not happening. You can't hear any sound to the video. But while we sort that out, just like I was saying, a lot of these situations now, many parents are unaware about what is going on. And sometimes we are to blame, but sometimes there are certain things that are too fast for us to understand. But given the magnitude of the revelations that have come out, I think it tells you, it goes to explain what exactly, it has been happening. All that we were waiting for probably is just to get a sort of an outburst, and then everything would just come out pouring. The death and the murder of Sarah Everett, I think about 2 weeks ago, in London, the Durham University student, I think brought to the fore a few things that I think now would sort of make anyone want to sort of follow up and find out what exactly happens in these particular situations. So probably, Maz, I think I should check with you. I don't know if your mic is on. Is our video ready? Okay, Maz, if you can just take us through some of the messages that we have seen. Some of them are very heartbreaking. Yeah. So we should warn our listeners, but it is important that we navigate through some of these. If you can just read through some of these messages while we get the video ready to prepare our audience for the discussion that we're going to have.
I sleep naked, bro.
Oh. Abatuuliriza assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope mwanamuli bulungi. Sheikh, I know the topic we're talking about mainly affects girls the most. Yeah. However, going through some of the testimonies, I came across one that kind of grabbed my attention, and it's that of a boy who was 17, I believe, when this happened to him. So I'll read that one first, just so that we don't focus on just one gender, forgetting that sexual harassment or sexual violence happens to both genders. Wow. So the one I have says, when I was at school, I was a cathedral choir boy. Age 14, one of the cathedral staff, he was about 25 years old, took me for a drive in his car. He stopped in a deserted car park and exposed himself. He told me I was going to, that's a little bit hard for me to read out, Sheikh. So basically, for me to explain it, just so that people know exactly what happened. So this boy was taken in a car park, and the staff member exposed himself and asked him to act some sexual activities on him. And so the boy goes on to say, I said I didn't want to, and he grabbed my head and pushed my mouth towards his private part. I tried to pull away, but he kept pushing until I did it. I reported it at the time, but nothing ever happened. I am not only the person who has been a victim of sexual abuse at the cathedral, but our stories have never resulted in any form of investigation.
So he reported it and nothing was done. Okay, let's go through the others, the girls. Yeah.
So for the girls, give me a few minutes.
And Shamim, is there one that caught your eyes as you're looking through, as Maz is getting ready? Okay, well, Maz looks like she's ready now.
I got it. Sorry. I got to get you see so I'd find out. Yeah, so as we're not supposed to mention names of school just to protect everybody. This one says the culture at certain school is disgusting. I have been groped in chemistry lessons and lunch queues. Boys have no qualms about discussing girls' bodies and their sexual prose in front of their faces. I have sat there whereas boys shared girls' nudes on group chats and around the class, offensive nicknames and ratings of girls' body parts are extremely common. Boys will loudly discuss a girl's sexual activity in the middle of class and openly harass and shame her. Multiple boys in my year have tried to I can't pronounce the word, to either to push her into doing something, into, for example, sending nudes and making her feel guilty when she refused, calling her boring and later slut shaming because of her outfits. So I don't know. It's a lot. Mm-hmm.
Well, these are some of the revelations, that you're hearing. Let's have about two more just quickly, and then we can get into the conversation. Hopefully, Isma will be sorted, and then we can open up the conversation, or maybe actually go to an expert and just hear, what's come. Let's have two more, please, Maria. Okay.
This one says, in year 10, I was sexually harassed by my boyfriend at the time. He took me to his bedroom while his parents were out and told me not to make a sound or tell anyone about it. He held down my neck against the bed so that I found it difficult to breathe or to talk. And he made me feel guilty as though it was my fault. For 2 years, my brain blocked out the memory entirely, and now it's coming back to me, flashbacks and nightmares. I'm scared because today he walks free, and I pray that no one else has been or will be a victim of his actions. And then I have another one here. It says, I was sexually assaulted by my boyfriend at the time. It's been almost 2 years and it still plagues my mind. I was 15 and he was also 15. But he was sexually active by the age of 13. When we got into the relationship, I told him I wanted to wait until I was a bit older, or at least 16, but soon after my 15th birthday, he started to try and persuade me into doing things I didn't want to do. I thought I loved him, so I did the things he asked me to do. After a while, I started to say no, but he would beg me and say things.
Baada kuzoom one, it's kakwenda kalinki. It's good. It's very nice. Kakwenda kalinki.
All right, Mama.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we are beginning to get a sort of a picture building up regarding this particular situation. Maz, you'll try your best not to be as emotional because you're a presenter, you're supposed to be guiding a conversation. If you start getting emotional, yes, I understand. We are human and we are parents and we are young people you are. So it's just only natural that probably that has happened. Probably actually you've studied here, you've been to school here. The kind of things that are being mentioned here, are these things that you could say you could relate with? Maz first and then Shamim? Are these things that you had at all during your time in school?
I think the part of boys either making fun of or talking about girls' body parts or comparing girls to one another and just sexually said stuff in their head. They think it's okay because they have seen examples, probably people around them, and probably these are grown people around them doing it, but they do it thinking it's okay, but it's not okay. Shaming girls off because of how we dress, when you dress a certain way. And I know in Uganda, here I have never seen it, but I know in Uganda, they had this, they call it skirt, is it skirt something, skirt, upskirting.
Upskirting, it is
So
here
they,
actually.
they used to do it. So in Uganda, you get like a mirror. For those that don't know what upskirting is.
We have lots of older parents here who I think will need a lot to learn.
So boys, they'll take a mirror and they'll put it either if you're wearing a skirt, so they'll pull the mirror down to look either what color your underwear is, and then they'll make fun of you based on that. But that in itself is sexual harassment.
Now, what has happened, Mars, is that when you're talking about the mirrors in Uganda, with the mobile phones now, actually that is even in some instances streamed live. Someone takes someone's mobile phone, just places it down on video, and then does the upskirting, but now it's going on. And many of the pupils have their own, groups that social groups, social network groups. The next thing is, before you know it, everybody knows what sort of underwear you're wearing. Of course, now that can be quite embarrassing. So that's something that it's not something that's totally new to you. I mean, your own experience, would you say that's something that is not new?
Upskirting, I think, is not new. But I think they did it because they didn't know that it was abuse. Maybe they did it because they thought it was just fun. I think in our culture, or in African culture, I think we only know that what is assault is the intercourse. I think now I think we need to educate ourselves a little bit more to know these different types of abuses.
Right.
Yeah. So, but no, I haven't personally. I haven't experienced.
Now, as a parent, because now I'm speaking to you as a parent now, hearing the kind of testimonies that you've had, actually what I would say to our viewers out there is the fact that about nearly 75, nearly 80%, actually the bigger the number, the more the margin actually widens. Nearly 80% of the cases of sexual harassment, especially sort of relating to out of school, especially in colleges and universities, is during parties and when there's alcohol involved. So it's about girls getting intoxicated. Once they are drunk, then the boys take advantage of that situation, and before you know it, girls wakes up, she's naked, she doesn't know how actually she got in that particular instance. So in a community that we are predominant, for example, with a Muslim community where alcohol is not so much of a problem, it's not really an exclusion, because many of our children are unfortunately now finding themselves really dragged into alcohol just for the purposes of sometimes curiosity, just to find out how it is. The next thing is they can't get off it. But they go down the route of alcohol, and then a lot of it has happened under the influence of alcohol. So in situations where, for example, we don't have alcohol in the picture, you might not hear most of these cases. But as parents out there, it's really about being careful and cautious about what is going on. Ismail, we have it's not happening. Right. What I'll do is I'll try to go to Bir Rahma and see. Okay, let's just try and see if we've got the volume, because we've got the videos, and I think they would have helped us at least to sort of build a mental picture. Because with the audience out there, all I can say is, as you are out there in the chat room, please remember you can have a conversation. We are live on 75W Radio, and we are live on Umma Connected, streaming live on YouTube, as well as Zoom, where we are at. Please keep the conversation going. Some of the questions probably can be set and put to our experts, some of whom will be joining in. We've got some social workers who are part of this. I think actually that's happening now, so I'll allow
abuse and
us, if you
assault
can
in
just take it
UK
to the
schools
start,
have
please,
been posted
that
on
we'll just play two videos back to back,
At the
just
end
to
of
give
this
you a
week,
picture.
more than 5,800 anonymous testimonials cataloguing acts of sexual harassment, abuse and assault in UK schools have been posted on Everyone's Invited, and they are still coming. But the 22-year-old who set up the campaign in June has said that the focus on fee-paying schools risks minimizing the issue, which she warns is happening in schools up and down the UK. When we narrow our focus on a school, a demographic, or as an individual, we risk making these cases seem like anomalies. But this isn't rare. It happens all the time, said UCL student Soma Sarah, herself a survivor of sexual abuse. When we direct the blame onto a person or place, we are undermining the most important message. Rape culture is universal and everywhere. We should all take responsibility for a culture that is so widespread and work together to dismantle and eradicate it. But pressure on some of the most prestigious schools in the country continued to mount this week, as stories from fee-charging establishments such as Dulwich College, Latimer Upper School and Westminster School appear on the site's testimonials page. On Friday, the head of Dulwich College warned pupils they could face fines if they participated in a protest advertised as a demonstration against the predatory culture of Dulwich College and the school management that condones it. Last weekend, the Sunday Times published an open letter which branded Dulwich College a breeding ground for sexual predators. Written by former pupil Samuel Schulenberg, 19, it included approximately 250 anonymous stories from girls who went to nearby schools. The school's head, Dr. Joe Spence, described the alleged behavior as distressing and entirely unacceptable, adding that he condemned unreservedly the alleged social and sexual misconduct. Stories have also emerged from other private schools such as Highgate, where pupils walked out of classes on Thursday after the publication of accounts of alleged abuse, and Westminster. The outpouring of anger has echoes of the scandal that rocked St. Andrews University last year, when an anonymous Instagram account exposed allegations of rape and sexual assault at the university. Set up in June by Sarah, Everyone's Invited now has 33,000 followers on Instagram and has seen an influx of testimonies since the death of Sarah Everard earlier this month sparked a national conversation about women's safety. Critics have argued the allegations it contains are anonymous and unverifiable, but Sarah said that was vital to protect victims in a culture that stigmatizes sexual violence. Those testimonies are just the tip of the iceberg. Rape is not spoken about, it is hugely underreported. The work of Everyone's Invited is crucial, she said. With a crescendo of voices has provided a moment of reckoning, said Andrea Simon, director of the Youth Violence Against Women Coalition. This is not just an issue in private schools, it is every school, every day, she said. But
Thank you very much, Isma. That's now just one example. We will be showing you another video because I just want to paint a picture. You can see that when they did this particular report, only 5,000 testimonies had come. I was speaking about nearly 43,000 testimonies that have just, sort of come out. People coming in to open up about particular experiences that actually made it absolutely difficult. Shamim, you have something to say on this.
With this sexual abuse, my worry or my question is that how comes it took the government so long for this to be in public? I don't know how comes it took the survivors or for them to come out.
Sometimes all you need is one particular situation and then it opens up the Pandora's box. All you need is just to touch on those particular elements. Birahma, I don't know if you're there. If you're there, please, if you can raise your hand. We'd like to come to you simply because we wanted to hear the technical aspect, especially inside the classroom. And if there is any other teacher that is in this particular conversation, please, if you can raise your hand. We won't talk about the specifics of your school or the name of your school, but we can speak about the situation in general. I think Hajat Kayira, Naima Kayira, you are on. Please, if you can unmute yourself. You are a social worker and in your line of work. Oh, I can see also JFSS. That would be very nice. Hajat Naima Kayira.
JFSS is me.
Is that Birahma?
Yes.
All right, I'll come to Hajat Naima Kayira after Birahma. Do you mind getting your camera on, please? Because of
I'm using the wrong
phone.
computer.
Right, okay, no problem. Now, Birahma, I think we've just watched the first video. We're going to watch another second video, which I think is quite intense, just giving this particular depth into this particular difficult subject that we need to be talking about. First and foremost, hearing this, from your perspective, how does that make you feel? I mean, you're already a professional in this area, but are you surprised about these kind of testimonies or revelations coming out?
Do you know what? I am. in a way, but I'm not in another way. So it is a mixed, it's a mixture of emotions.
So let's start with you are.
You see, there has always been concerns about adults subjecting young people, young children in school. So as a trained educationist, I know when I used to work as a primary school teacher, in our training, we were told not to hold, not to push, not to grab a child. So we're supposed to be hands-free completely. So the shock for me is that, okay, there's a lot of work that has been done on the adults, but then we actually didn't see this coming, that it would be between the children.
So people to people has been allowed to sort of exist while we are taking a lot of care on the adult side.
Yeah, however, so we have all the CRB checks as adults working with young kids. There's so many things happening to make sure that the adults are not harming the children.
Yes.
So that's the thing that is a bit surprising for me, in the sense that we focused on one group. God behold, we've come to find out that, but the other group that is not really thought about as a challenge
on the not surprised bit.
Yeah, so they're not surprised is that children are very sexualized very early. There's a lot of stuff out there sexualizing children. There are some games that children play. They have women dressed in a certain way. I know that there is all this movement and ideas of women have their own freedom to choose how they dress, to choose it's their body, they have to expose it the way they want. But there is something in the children's video games, and I've seen women and the way they're dressed, and so you have these young boys, young girls, children are growing up, their bodies changing, they're in that phase of the bodies changing. There's a lot of exposure. So I think then they're taking it from theory to want to put it into practice. So that's the bit that I'm not surprised.
So is there pressure? Would you say there's pressure then? Oh, sorry, go ahead. It looks like
yeah, of course. There is a lot of pressure. So having worked as a therapist in a school setting for more than 10 years, there is a lot of pressure. There is a lot of peer pressure. There is a lot of name calling. So for example, if a young person decides they want to wait, they get called names. Oh, you're not saying yes because you're this, or because you're that. Or so then people not wanting to be stigmatized, sometimes they give in. Sometimes they feel that pressure. But I think because there's so much material out there, it is not surprising that children want to put theory into practice. That would be my thinking.
So then, is that down to social media? Is that down to televisions and soaps? The kind of messages that the public is sending out. So we are creating our own problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of young people. So in my work, I've come across and worked with very, very young children, as young as 11, who have actually have had an opportunity to go to pornography websites. And children know how to work around all these parental mechanisms that get put
parental controls that we think we have
parental controls. And then there's at school with friends. There's a lot of things happening between children. There's young boys taking themselves, taking pictures of themselves, sending it to girls taking pictures of themselves, sending it to boys. So then the biggest question for all of us is, so what's happening? What is going on? And I think for me, the response is that question goes to parents. What are you as parents doing? Are you aware? How does your culture, how does your religion, how does your upbringing enable you or disable you in having conversations with your children? I don't know if not bringing it in the open is helpful.
Right, Birahma, I think
secrecy allows a lot of things to grow.
Yeah, what I was going to say to you was the fact that you've said that children now are much cleverer than we are when it comes, especially to the use of technology.
Yeah.
So as a parent, while you might try to have a conversation, and actually there's something as a psychologist or as a therapist that you will agree with me, there is an issue of double appearances. The kind of image that you see of a child at home is almost totally different from the child that you meet in a Dixie's takeaway, picking up chips or chicken or fighting along the street. And I'm sorry for using the name of the company. It's nothing bad, actually. It's business. I've done free advertisement for them in that matter. But you find that the kind of child that you have at home and the kind of child that you find on the, like in school, with the peers is totally different. They enter the house and they become Muhammad, so quiet. They get out, they become more immediately, and then they are someone totally different. As parents, while you want us to take responsibility for this, where do you draw the line? Because if you've done your bit, the child can still overstep that because they are 3 steps ahead from you.
So that's really a very beautiful thought to put forward. I think there is a lot of research, and I just have done a program on talking about religiosity and children and raising children in a dual culture. So parents, I'm guessing majority of our parents who will be tuned in would be mainly migrant parents. So when you're a migrant family in living here, your child is growing up in what we call a dual culture. So at home, there's a different kind of culture, and outside the home. So you have your Kiganda, Kiislamu culture, Kiswahili culture at home, alafu Kizungu, Western culture outside. So our kids are growing up in a dual culture. Their culture outside is their culture because they are growing in that culture. They are growing up in that culture. They're learning how to do things within that culture. And at home, they have a culture. We're expecting them to come home, to be Muhammad Rahma, MashaAllah, Bismillah, they pray, they cover themselves, they say salam. They're polite because they're expected to behave that way. And when they're outside, when they're at school, they want to fit in. I see it. I've seen it at school myself. You see girls and you see they've got their hijab on and they're effing and bliming like everyone else. And then when
that's what I was going to cover actually. Yes,
but it's amazing. So when they see me walking past,
yes,
they completely zip it. Because they see somebody who is covered like them, and they know that we're not supposed to do it in front of her. So then to think about the suggestion for the parents is maybe stopping and going back to the drawing board. And the drawing board would be to, first of all, ask yourself, what is your religiosity level yourself?
Birama, just to let you know, I've asked as many parents as possible to bring their children into this conversation. And I'm hoping they have, because I've seen my own children are on here and they're listening. It would be very interesting if they just came on. If they have a point, please just, the way, just raise up your hand and then we will discuss some of these issues, because there are those dynamics inside schools that even with the best intentions, you would never find out. They have their secrecy culture that evolves, that actually makes it so difficult for you to break into, until something like this happens. When you start getting all these testimonies coming out, then you realize how much of a problem we are actually dealing with. Birahma, here in the chat room, one of the participants says some parents ignore the signs. Are there particular signs that as parents we should sort of look out, to sort of know probably our children are either undergoing pressure or they've been in a situation that is difficult?
I think it's not about ignoring signs. It could be that maybe they're not able to work out or to pick those signs up. So how do you ignore the signs if you actually see something and you suspect something? I don't know if parents really, I have a very positive take on parents, is that they don't know it, or something else we think about is the quality in the relationship.
Right.
if the parents are not connected and connecting with their children on a daily basis, that's where the problem comes, that maybe they don't even see it, but anybody else who sees it thinks they're ignoring it. So there's an idea of connection. It's the relationship that is the vehicle. You know, one of the things that parents maybe don't really engage with is when your kids are younger, they look up to you. When you ask them to do something, they do it. If they don't do it, you pick them up, you grab them, you make them do it. As your children grow up, they no longer see you as a giant. You're not scary anymore. They don't have to listen to you if they don't want to. So what works is the relationship between you and your children. And you have to begin to develop that relationship at a very early age. So there is openness, there is conversations. You talk about things in a way that they feel able to come to you at any point. But this is what happens. When our children come to us, what do we do? What happened?
No.
So you know, then they think, mama ashaniambia mimi msiru, I'm not coming back.
Right.
But it's how open are we? When they come to us and they have something to tell us that is quite scary for them, are we going to make them feel responsible, or are we going to be supportive? And I think it's all to do with culture. How are we cultural?
For the children who are listening into this conversation and you are with your parents, I know quite a number of you are on. Please, if you have any points to raise, because you might think parents simply don't understand. Actually, the conversations we've had with younger children, and when what they say to you is that I see my parents already struggling well enough with their work, stressed out with work, and I do not want to burden them, you know, with more of my particular concerns. So I decide to fight it my own way. What would you say to a child who says that way, Birahma? And then I'll come to Hajjati Naima just in terms of the social service aspect of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids do say that, even in my therapy sessions.
Right.
And most of the time they say, so they'll tell me something like, so I'll say, have you spoken to your parents? They'll say, no, they have their own problems. They argue all the time. So I don't want to add this onto them. Or they'll say they won't believe me, they will blame me. So there is a lot of different issues why a young person will not go. But one of the biggest theme that is coming through a lot of research that we are doing right now around religiosity. Children are abandoning religiosity and religiousness on the basis of their parents. And the theme that is coming through is the idea of that double standard that you spoke about. So parents being very do as I say, but not as I do. So parents need to live that example. You want your children to feel safe with you. How safe are you making the conversations? And how encouraging, you know, do we check? Do we talk to them? Do we ask them? Maybe we're too busy. So it's that idea of stop, pause, and then think about how to approach these things. And you know, sometimes what happens is we are thinking it's happening to someone else. We are Muslims. If some of the Muslim families listening, because we are Muslims, we know what is haram and halal, so it doesn't happen to us.
Right.
So there's a lot of false ideas that we are carrying with ourselves, I think.
Birahma, thank you very much. Please stay on there, because we are going to keep needing your particular participation in this particular debate, especially from a professional perspective. Just to let you know, in case there are any issues arising out of this, if as a child listening to this conversation you become very uncomfortable, we'll be providing lines that can be called, at least to try to get a bit of support. But we also have Birahma on hand to be able to, if you want to have a private chat, we can have that conversation off the back of this particular conversation. Messages coming in here in the chat room. Here says, Guidance Series Media says, I still remember my P3 experience when I found my book cover written on, I love you, so kiss me. iPhone says also a lot of our parents have gone through these things, but they can't share their stories with us to prepare us. So actually as parents, and that's where I threw it to my co-presenters here, just to sort of get a feel. And sometimes it's really important to sort of get it out. We would tease girls during our days so much, but it's nothing that gets to, you know, what I'm seeing today. Just but the issue of like of upskirting, those were sort of fun games that we thought were just the normal. But then the normal, you suddenly started realizing that that's not normal, especially when it has to affect someone's confidence. There are girls who would never get any confidence back after that particular experience, especially if whatever they had there underneath wasn't as, you know, as they would have expected. Musa says parents don't also live Islam as a way of life. Islam is considered just as a religion, and parents tend to say, do as I say, but not as I do. The children end up looking at Islam as a sort of norms and rituals. Just to tell you that this particular conversation, this program is about you, the person that is on the program. Therefore, please do participate. If I just pick up on you at any one point, this is how this program rolls. It will be interesting just to hear your particular experience, especially your reaction to hearing what has just been said. I'll go to Hajat Naima before I come. Just one quick message here from the testimonies again, just to sort of give you the magnitude of the problem as we are dealing with it. Maz.
Okay, so the one I have here says, two guys I went to school with asked me if I wanted a cigarette at a party while I was blank out drunk. I said sure, and they took me into a bedroom to get cigs, meaning cigarette. They both sexually assaulted me, while I cried and screamed for it to stop. A couple of days later at school, they told me they had done nothing and I had wanted it, despite the fact my throat was covered in bruises and my face and lip were both cut. Others at the party had seen me live in hysteria, so rumors spread that were then confirmed by my ex-boyfriend, who proclaimed me a finger-blasted pig, who had arranged a threesome. I told my dad what happened, and he said, boys learn boundaries as they grow up. They didn't know any better. Every girl in my year knew, and not one of them said anything to me. My closest friends continued to be friends with the boys. One of the guys has since apologized to me. However, then he told me in a way I should be flattered because they chose me because of my looks. The other guy continued to harass me every time he was drunk and would see me out, sweating in my slurring. But why would I hate him so much? And why would I ignore him? I found out he was sexually assaulted others and currently grooms underage boys from our area over social media. I feel guilty every day that I didn't go to the police. However, I was informed by my dad that everyone at school would hate me if I did that. He wasn't wrong. So it had been decided that the police wasn't an option.
Wow, these are some of the testimonies. Hajat Naima Kayira, I'm coming to you off the back of this video, just to sort of, again, immerse us into this particular conversation. As parents who are out there listening to this, I know it's a difficult conversation, but it's one of those that we must have because this is what is going on. And as parents, we need to have that ready on us. Hajat Naima will be coming back to you just after this particular video, which is helping us to understand more what is going on.
Home for the first time, university should be exhilarating, but living cheek by jowl with other students means that when it goes wrong, it is especially difficult. Hannah Price learnt this firsthand.
He started to get quite aggressive, and then he grabbed my arm really hard and kind of pushed me against the sofa.
Hannah says she was raped by a fellow student while at university. She felt she couldn't report it. She has chosen to speak publicly about this.
The thing with university is it's like no other area of life. You're living, studying, socialising, working with these people every day. It feels easier to talk yourself out of the fact it happened than do anything about it.
Hannah's experience led her to investigate how many other students had similar stories. She launched a survey which found that of those harassed or assaulted, more than half said they knew their perpetrator. The most common places of sexual assault were halls of residence, university social events such as a club or a pub crawl, and campus communal areas like bars, dining halls and shops. Some universities are trying to tackle the problem. Manchester has a team dedicated to supporting students.
If somebody doesn't want to report it to be identified, then they can use the report and support button to do it anonymously.
But even in Manchester, some 2,000 took to the streets to protest against sexual assault.
I have experienced a lot of sexual harassment at uni and prior to coming to uni at a younger age.
Women in general are always more aware they have to be very aware of their surroundings. Is it really bad at university?
Yeah, it is. I don't feel safe walking home in the dark. It's terrible.
Shocking. All of you are saying this. You're all saying you feel targeted as students.
Yeah, I do. I find I get catcalled on more or less a weekly basis.
Reclaim the night. Today's survey makes it quite clear why students join marches like this one. Now, it's not the fault of the universities. Many of the students don't report these crimes in the first place. But nonetheless, it is now quite clear that most universities around the country don't have a grip.
The universities regulator today called for change.
My message to universities who are thinking about this is work on preventing this. So put in place a culture where this is less likely to occur, address it repeatedly, regularly, prioritise it.
Universities UK say their members have improved how they handle sexual assault on campus, but they acknowledge there's more work to do. Universities should see students broaden their horizons, not shut themselves away. Allegra Stratton, News at 10.
Right, now you've just seen, this is just part of the bigger problem. You see how widespread it is. It's not just in one school, it's across universities, it's across the whole country. And then all you needed was just a starting point just to get everybody talking. Hajat Naima, if you can unmute yourself, please. You are a social worker, and in your line of work, Hajat Naima, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum salam.
You are a social worker, and in your line, actually, you do specialize in children and families. Is this, well, first of all, let me get your reaction to this particular report and what you're hearing about this.
I'm really not surprised with sort of the findings in universities, because when students go to universities, then other students think now, this is the freedom, this is the time to do whatever I want to do. And I think the problem we have as parents when our children go to university, I remember when Makin did go to university, and there was a time I couldn't get hold of him for almost a week. And when I rang student services just to welfare services just to see if they've heard from him what is happening, they told me they couldn't give me that information. So you are also. It was
confidentiality. You couldn't even have access to him. He was an adult now.
Exactly. So when children go to universities, it's like they are now grown up. So you have really nothing more to do. But I do take on what Bibi Rahma said, and I think that would be our topic, inshallah, next week. Will be brought by the Ummah Connected Muslim around how do we build better relationship with our children, because I think that's where it all starts. If you're able to have that strong relationship with your parents, you're able to sort of confide in them, you're able to tell them exactly what's going on in your world, and you can get help with that. I think the other thing that I found out was that I think it was Sister Shamim who asked why now, why has all this come out now? It's because it took people courage to do it. Most cases we deal with are cases that you have no evidence and therefore they can't go any further. Mm-hmm. So then the person or the victim is what was the point?
And that in your line of work, have you come across cases of, say, sexual harassment being part of the referrals to you?
They don't come in as referral, that's really rare, but they come in as you work with the young person, then the youth starts, these things start coming out. But again, it's not in a way that they give that information to you readily. Mm-hmm. It's something in respect to their behavior. So these are young people, or the way you say it, teenagers, who are now really being defiant, who are really aggressive. They have anger outbursts, and they're not. They don't respect any boundaries. And when you try to probe that and say, why do you behave the way you're behaving? You're really stressing out mommy and daddy. And then this is something that would come out. You don't know what I've gone through. You don't know what's happening in school. Most of them skip school because of that. So parents should really be mindful of some of the behaviors that come into play when obviously those are behaviors they don't see regularly. Like, for example, if they're skipping school, they are withdrawn, they become, suddenly they're angry and things like that.
You've mentioned something to do with, someone, you're dealing with a case and a child says to you, you don't know what I'm having to deal with in school. Do you have in your capacity the ability to probably probe that a little bit further? Are you able, for example, to go into school and try to find out what is going on? Are you able in your line of work to do that?
What we are allowed to do is obviously ask what that statement actually means. Then obviously if it's something to do with sexual abuse, you can't probe anymore, because obviously you start asking what's called leading questions. So what at that point you then obviously have to ask for permission from this child or the young person, telling them, actually, I'll have to involve the police now, because what you've just told me is really worrying. And it's the police that have sort of the expertise to ask questions that would, in the end, would not come out as questions that have been leading, that have been sort of fabricated in a way that we've put a child in a situation where a child had to disclose something that actually wasn't or hadn't happened. So you, as a social worker, you have, unless you're trained in evidence, I don't know how they call it, evidence extraction around sexual abuse. So the police has a special unit, it's called Child Abuse Unit. They're quite trained and they know how to extract that information in a way that it doesn't look like they have really put the child or the young person in a position that they've been forced to give that information. So that's what I think that's the point there, that most people are not coming out, because it's something that may have happened and now it's too late. There's no evidence to sort of, but I think now police obviously is working really hard, and I think if they've been sort of, for example, if it's with the staff in institutions and a child has come up with allegations, there is robust investigation done on that person, that it could lead to your could lead to your you being sacked or you losing your job, or even if there's no evidence, but the fact that a child has alleged that you've sexually assaulted them or touched them inappropriately, it does affect you.
All right. Now, there's a question here, I think, from Michael, presenter here.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Alaikum salam.
Okay. Oh, I think you said that even, for example, if a child came to you and maybe she or he said that they were assaulted, in case they don't give you their permission, what would you do?
Obviously, you have to report it. You just have to report it, and they'll log it. So I will have to put that as a referral to the police, then they will take it from there. And sometimes if the child doesn't want to talk, they would not force that child to talk. So those are the obstacles we face every day in terms of combating this problem, or in terms of solving this problem. That if a child does not want to talk about it, you cannot. You have to give them time. They have to go to therapy. And obviously if they disclose from there, then something can be done. So this is why these cases are not being picked up, because of the victims are not coming forth. So this goes down to building those relationships with our the main carers, and being able to say these things, so that obviously they solve that problem before it's too late.
All right, Hajat Naima, thank you very much. The conversation continues. Remember, you are live on 75W Radio and streaming as well on YouTube, on Umma Connected, and on Zoom as we are at. You can always call into the studio and share your views, or actually go into the chat room and we'll pick up those conversations and go on with them. I'd like now to open the floor to you. You've been listening into the experts. Now it's probably time for me to start randomly going as I usually do, just to get from the parents and hear the perspective. I've heard from the women now. I think I'll pick up one man to get us talking, just to get a feel, because as parents now, I think we are in this together. Also to add, very importantly, let language not be a barrier. Perfectly fine. If you are in Swahili, haki ya Mungu takiongea. Chochote unachokileta, nushaka ni Kinyarwanda twakivuga. Please, let's just have the conversation here. Chiwanuka, please. I think I saw Chiwanuka. If you can unmute yourself, please. Chiwanuka's iPhone. Chiwanuka's iPhone, if you can unmute yourself. Yes, Chiwanuka, are you there? Hello, Chiwanuka?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam. I hope your line can improve. Line yes,
okay. Coming.
Okay, perfectly fine. Are you happy to...
Sorry.
Just quality line here, but this is you've had the conversation around this difficult topic about the gross sexual abuse in schools. Are you a parent, first of all, probably for starters? Hello, Chiwanuka. Oh, line
got two kids, two boys, and boy 15, 10, and sorry, I'm still there.
Okay, yeah, you are on now. You had lost it for a bit. You're saying you have got two kids.
Yeah, three kids actually. The boy
kids.
15. Yeah, the boy of 15 and 10, and the girl of she's just turned 8 actually the other day.
Oh, barakallah. That's quite something. Now, listening to this particular report, let me just first of all get your particular reaction. Listening to this, how do you feel?
Well, it does break my heart because as a parent, basically, you children is they are a gift from God, basically. So whether it happened to people you know or people you don't know, it just breaks your heart, hands down.
Now, if a child came to you and said to you that I've been abused, how would you deal with it as a parent? You have a 15-year-old, 10-year-old, they come to you and they explain to you that they found themselves in that difficult situation.
First of all, I think I'll feel blessed if a child come to me, because I know I've done my part for that child to have a confidence actually to come and confide such a horrendous situation to me. Then in that situation, all I have to do is just give them the ears and listen to what they say. And then I guess we have to, I can never sit on such a thing. I have to actually to involve the authority. I have to call the police, because as a parent, I don't think I will have means or the guts actually to deal with such a situation. Mm-hmm. It's very hard for me actually, even if to think like one day I have to face such a thing.
Right. Now, actually, everybody would almost wish that we do not have to face it. But the reality now, looking at 43,000 testimonies coming from different people from across the country, says or means one of our own might be a part of that process that is undergoing, a difficult situation. For example, if you are to advise your children, they haven't come to you in such a case, and may God forbid. But what sort of message would you have for your own children in case they found themselves in a difficult situation? Would you ask them to come to you? Would you ask them to get the confidence to come and speak to you and talk to you?
Yeah. Well, actually, before of this.
Okay. Go ahead. I've muted the person. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. Even before all of these conversation, the rules in our house, we don't have secret. I made it clear from a while ago, me and my children, we don't have a secret. And I always draw the line. I said, listen, if I don't have a secret, me and my children, we don't have secret. There is no any other person actually can tell my children I'm doing this, it will be a secret. So whatever happened to them, I want them to come straight. Me, I'm the number one of their confidant.
Barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum, Haji Chiwanuka. I'm just leaving you because I'm allowing the conversation. Time is running so fast and I need to get in as many parents involved, including children as well. Please, if you are there and you'd like to say something. Haji Jamiru, I'm seeing new faces and that for me really is an attraction. I always come to you. Haji Jamiru, if you can unmute yourself, please. I'll take the second man, then I'll move to the ladies and we hear. We just spread out the conversation with my co-presenters in the studio here. Maz, just in case one of the testimonies comes out and you think it's really powerful, I think we'll dig into it. And we have our third video as well, which I think we really need. Shamim, do you have something burning? No. I just wanted to bring Haj Jamil in. Haj Jamil Ubadeb, please unmute yourself, please. Yes.
No, I think it's like he said, it would be very blessed that the children went to him. But I would think that me personally, I would give them that assurance that they are not to blame, because like I think one of the contributors said that we don't, if they feel that we blame them. Maybe they say, oh mom, this happened. What did you do? What was it? What was it? But the children, they need that assurance that they are not to blame. I think that will give them, the assurance as well. And you tell them that it's going to be a fine, and then maybe you go to the authorities.
And with parents, sometimes one child will feel comfortable with one of the parents. I think Leila Kadri is making a point here saying my daughter tells the dad everything, alhamdulillah. So probably mom is too tough and they won't find it easy. Within my home, the interesting thing is that actually it depends on what sort of topic it is.
Exactly.
So they'll find me easy to come to on certain topics, and then they'll find some other things easy too. If it's a video game they want to lobby to buy, they know dad is not the place to go to. They know where to go and they know that the video game will be bought. But if then it's something else, then you find the conversation. I think inside homes, we need to open up these spaces so that children can feel comfortable, but also being able to listen to. And as Bibi Rahma said, to sort of see the telltale signs, the signs that might actually tell us something is not right and therefore we need to do something about it. Right, I'll go to a second man and then open up to the ladies. Haji Jamil, I'll just try to find another man. But well, it's just random, very random about. Oh, Nabi Abu Bakar Majwara. Abu Bakar, salamu alaikum. Abu Bakar Majwara. Please, if you can unmute yourself. Alhamdulillah, ensonga oziwulidde n'ebiri mu kubeera mu masomero ebisobola okuba tibituuka ku baana baffe. Your take, please. Owulidde otya, owulidde omutima gwekanze otandise kusiza mu nkwawa nga munnya oba oli mu kifo kimu?
Sebo ensonga nziwulidde naye nze ekyomukisa kye nnina gye muli nti abaana siina wano ku ggwanga gye muyitamu n'abaana ngiwuliriza era bangi bendabyeko ab'eŋŋanda zange babayina naye nsuubira nti wakati w'omuzadde n'omwana enkolagana bw'ebanga si amaanyi ebizibu byonna ebikwatagana n'abaana biva ku bazadde ebiseera ebisinga. Bazadde abasinga ndowooza nze ku lwange baagala nnyo abaana ne bayita mu kwagala okubawa ebbeetu ery'okukola buli ky'aba ayagadde nga tasobodde muwabula. Obutawabula abaana n'obutabalaga kkubo bye bimu ku bivaako abaana okuba nti ebizibu bye bafeesinga oluusi liba bbeetu lya muzadde lyawa omwana. Nze ku lwange nandisabye ndowooza abazadde be bandibadde basinga okwagala okuba nti bayambibwa okuteekebwa mu direction gye balina okuteekamu abaana baabwe. Nze bwe nandibadde ndowooza ku lwange ssebo.
Barakallahu fikum. I saw iPhone and I've taken iPhone. iPhone, you had raised up your hand. iPhone, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Are you there? Maz, do you have iPhone?
We do.
Yes, there was iPhone with the hand up and then they disappeared.
Sorry, I was just clapping. It was
right.
by accident.
Oh, so you clapped and raised your hand. Now that I've got you, I think I can't let you just go. Is that Agatha?
Yes, Agatha.
Oh, right, Agatha. Yeah, have you been listening to the conversation from when we started?
Yes, I have. I have been listening.
I'm sure you've heard about this, and well, let me first take your own take on this. I mean, are you shocked? Are you surprised? Or having been in school sounds normal?
I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. These are definitely things that happen in school. I think on other shows, I've always said, like, parents think when kids go to school, we're just talking about books and stuff. But no, we're very exposed to sex. And, you know, kids, like, personally, for me, growing up in Scotland, from a young age, I was, you know, kind of groomed, because from when I was 14, 15, we were already going clubbing, underage clubbing, you know, already they're treating us like we're adults, you know, so already we're going to these clubs. What do you think we're doing? We're winding on each other, we're twerking on each other. So already we're being hypersexual to each other, you know, and kids would just come, slap your bum, you know, kids would just talk about what they've done at the weekend, which boy they kiss, what happened. So I am not surprised at all.
Would you feel pressured at all, Agatha, now hearing what someone did over the weekend? Would you feel like you would want to compete or match up with that? Because peer pressure was mentioned as one of the issues that lead people to that.
100%, because everybody's talking about which boy they kissed and who's lost their virginity. So if you haven't done none of that, you look like you're ugly or you're not wanted, or, you know, it's all about even you, like how you look, you know, because then you think, oh, I'm not pretty because no boy or nobody wants me. So yeah, peer pressure definitely has a big, you know, thing to play, because I had good friends and I had bad friends. I had my good friends.
When you talk about the good friends and the bad friends, let's hear the bad friends first. Oh.
So I had my bad friends who were all about boys.
Oh, I think the line dropped. Are you still there, Agatha? I think we'll try to get her back.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, right. Okay. Go ahead. You had good friends and bad friends. That's where we had stopped. Let's talk about the bad friends. I was asking.
Yeah, so I had my bad friends who were all about clubbing, boys, going out, being mischievous, never coming back home on time, you know. And then I had my good friends who were about staying home, doing homework. And
what age are we talking about there? Is that like from 10, or are you saying 15? You said you had mentioned 15 at some point, but was it even before 15?
It was before. Right. So it was around 12 from when I started secondary school. Mm-hmm. But now I know it's younger. But from when I started secondary school, that's when all the trouble started. Okay.
Do you think you could have done it differently? Because part of it, I mean, the child therapist who we have on the program has already suggested that parents need to open a conversation, a kind of a relationship with their children. Would you say your parent was missing in this picture, and that's what pushed you to the good friends and bad friends, actually finding company more there than you would find at home?
100%. My mom was working. We were immigrants, so she was also facing the asylum, trying to get papers. So she wasn't there mentally herself. She already had so much stresses, you know. So I was left to raise myself. I was given so much freedom at such a young age, you know. So coming home and you're in the house by yourself, what do you think you're going to do? You know, you have to take out frozen meals, you know, that's what you're eating. Like, I'm alone. Of course, I'm going to want to go out. You know, I'm not going to want to stay in the house.
And that's where now, as you go out, you find the wrong company. That's the likelihood of teaming up with the wrong people and then ending up in difficult situations.
Exactly. And I think also our parents need to know, like, which friends are we with? Are these friends trusted? Because I was definitely kind of influenced by my friends, you know. And it got, I think it also got to a point where I now, because I didn't even have an identity for myself, so I was playing to where, like, one of the experts said it, like, you know, when you see someone that you'll be quiet and humble because you know you're not supposed to be doing this. And then when you're with school or whatever, you're a totally different person. I was that person.
Right. And let's go inside school, because as parents, I think part of the issue, most people here are parents, but they are asked, and I'm sure there are some who are there with their children now listening into you at this particular moment in time. Take us inside the school environment and probably, you know, what plays out that for a parent now would help us to try and understand probably what goes on in school, that as a parent you can pick upon and see how to try to avert. What exactly goes on? You've gone to school, you've arrived, parade, well, in days that you don't have parade. Once you get our assembly, what happens there?
Once you get to school, obviously you have your timetable. If you've come early, you're just there speaking to your friends. You're speaking about what happened, what you watched, you know, what music you like, what boy liked who, who's going out with who, what happened over the weekend, you know. I'm so sorry, guys. My daughter's in the background.
No problem. Actually, that's very good atmosphere. It's the reality of what we are dealing with. Yes, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, but pretty much it's never really about books. It's always more about personal life. Like, what are you doing? Which boy do you like? Like I as I said, we were going underage clubbing, so it was always about what we done in those clubs. You know, who kissed who's going out with who danced with who, what drama, who fought with who's lost their virginity, who's pregnant, who's like different things.
So Agatha, if I wanted to help my child escape that, is there a way around that? Do I wait and bring them school late so they just go into class and don't have the time to discuss that? Or
even in class, we talk about these things. It's not just, you know, in assembly. Like in class, you get in trouble. They're always telling you to stop talking. And I'm thinking now, when I was growing up, you know, we didn't have social media, you know. The kids now have social medias. They have phones. I can only imagine the kind of trouble I would have been if we had social media. If these things were already happening without social media, oh, what is happening now is beyond. Because I have my little nieces and she's like, what, 12? And she's sexting on Snapchat.
Right.
Someone who's 18 and she's only 13 and they're sexting.
There are some older parents here who might not actually understand sexting, but sexting is just it is sex texting, but the combination of the two words.
Can I just advise there, please? Can you report that, because that is that's against the law, and 18 having that conversation with a 12. Is it 12 or 13?
13-year-old.
Yeah, you need to report.
But did you try to intervene then, Agatha? Or just
100%. Of course. I mean, her mom has decided to take her back to Uganda, which is so bad, because also then, like, you're not really talking to her and saying what's wrong. You're just disciplining instead of actually, you know, telling her this, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, that's another thing. Parents just blame you. And so when you go through something, you're not going to come and tell your parent, because if they're just abusing you, you're a prostitute, you're this, you're that. Why would you go tell your parent? Why would you go open up to them? Because already you're making me think that's what I am. Then I might as well go out and do exactly what you're telling me I am. Because words are strong. And to a child, like, you shouldn't be saying, like, my little niece, I see her and she thinks she's a troublemaker because everybody has now made her think she's, you know, everything that's happening is her fault. And she's at such a young age, she's already so depressed. And trying to even talk to her mom just will not listen. And you can just see how this whole situation is going to play out, because I have been there, you know, so I can see where it's gonna go. But at the same time, because I'm not her mom, there's nothing I can do.
You're limited in terms of how much you can do. All right, Agatha, just stay on the line, please. Let me just try to bring in a little bit more in terms of the conversation. Maz, you're telling me you've seen another big testimony. Let's have it quickly, short, so that I can come to Jalila's iPhone. Jalila's iPhone, please, if you can unmute yourself while we get the message from Maz, and then we'll come to you.
Sheikh, I don't think it's going to be a little quick. It's a little bit of a long one.
But no, just summarize it. Yes, please.
Yeah. It says parents, teachers, head teachers, and MPs really need to stop sticking their heads in the sand. And when it comes to social violence experienced by girls throughout my time at secondary school, instance of grabbing, trying to undo girls' bra strap through their skirt while they sat in class or assembly, upskirting, and calculation of nude pictures, and unwanted, like, this is a lot, but it kind of summarizes everything that we have spoken about. And it goes on to say, and unwanted explicit messages occurred on social grounds, on school grounds, and little action was taken. And it goes on to say, in fact, us girls were blamed for the length of our skirts more than anything. And I think I wanted to say that one because when you look at the rape culture, when a girl is raped or sexually harassed or sexually assaulted, we intend to question the girl. For example,
how were you dressed?
Why were you dressed like that?
Yeah.
And for example, the incident that happened to Sarah, I'm sure a lot of people were like, why was she walking at night? Why was she in this place? So we intend to take the blame of the assault on the person that's been assaulted instead of looking at the person that's actually done the crime. And someone left a message on Zoom saying, let me read the one out. I think it was commenting on, at least here, people can get help and they can speak up, but in Uganda, they can't. So when you look at the rape culture, apart from the sexual violence, you have the people that actually protect the rapists or people that perform all these silly acts on girls or young boys, and institution is one of them. And then you have the culture norms, which is our traditions.
Right.
Where we come from, we have this obswavo and stuff like that.
The shame or the pride.
The pride.
Yes, the family pride.
Yeah, when we speak up or when whoever has spoken up, I'm sure there has been a lot of shows regarding sexual violence and harassment. And most of the people that came forward to say what happened to them, the traditional norms or culture norms are things that get in the way of people getting justice that they deserve because we protect the people. The
perpetrators instead of going for them. Actually, in other situations, I think part of the testimonies, there is a testimony that I read, which goes that actually when a report is made, what happens is they end up suspending from school the perpetrator and the victim. So the victim actually ends up getting victimized twice because they were victimized, they were assaulted in the first place, and as they reported, because the school is trying to protect its particular image, its own image, they end up suspending this. All right, let's just get a few more of your comments here. The chat room is getting heated up and I'll be coming to you actually. Here says, Sunna says, oh, there's Galaxy S9 Plus who says, I'm Rwandan. I grew up in Uganda. When I was growing up, I knew I was loved by my parents. My parents spoke to me about boys and sex from as young as 12 years old. Zamzam Mwanga says, you are right, Laila. A lot of kids are abused within households and they have nowhere to go. Of course, that's a topic for another day. That's why I wanted to concentrate on schools, and then we can have, given how deep this goes, we might not be able to actually cover that ground adequately. Sunna says, I have seen much and reached the extent of praying to Allah not to grant me female children. Oh, Farahudillah, that wouldn't really be, well, I think probably that's the magnitude of the problem. It's better we tell our kids the real reality of sexuality other than taking corners. That is Abdul Karim Mugabe. And I think it's Nyaka. Nyaka had tried to get to you because I think you are new onto this particular forum. I've not seen you before. I always memorize the names, even if it's 100 people. If I see a name that has been on and I haven't, I will remember. Nyaka says, well said, Agatha, taking children back to Uganda does not solve the issue. it actually makes it worse. It's passing the buckle to the person you are leaving the child with in Uganda. Actually, someone had already said in Uganda, these things happen as well. In fact, as we're talking about education, these problems we started covering as the BBC. We did some special reports across much of Africa, and there's something that is called sexually transmitted marks. So you are at university, you have failed to do your course, you're struggling with your course. You just get to the lecturer, you provide a sexual favor in return for your pass mark for your particular paper. And this is happening across much of Africa. We did a deep investigation in Ghana and in Nigeria, and in Uganda, actually a whole lecturer was filmed live by a student who was, they set up this, and it actually happened that the lecturer now was caught really in a very compromising position or situation, delving into something that was not allowed for a lecturer in that particular situation. Abu Musa, or is it A Musa? A Musa, if you can unmute yourself, please. There is Hajat Fatuma Bukenya. I think I'll come to her. Let me first get balance it out. A Musa or Abu Musa? I'll go to Fatuma Bukenya while A Musa gets ready. I don't know whether that's Abu Musa, but it's A Musa, please, if you can be ready. Hajat Farida, Hajat, did you say Fatuma Bukenya? Naam, Fatuma. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hajat Farida, ensongozi wulidde n'engegezika njagala ompe reaction yo kwanza. Woziwulidde weekanze, weesiwaddemu oba tekikwewuunyisizza?
Nesisiwadde nnyo kubanga wano waliwo amateeka. Nabadde sinza ekintu kigenze beyond bwe kityo. Kubanga ewaffe ate yo ekikulu nga waliwo omuntu akyogeddeko. Ewaffe ekyensonyi kino banaagamba batya ate ne tukizza ku baana. Kati abazadde ensonga yange egamba nti number 1 tufuule nnyo abaana baffe mikwano gyaffe okuva nga bato. Omwana akule nga you are not a parent but you are a friend to her.
This is a word I keep hearing every time. Tukikoze tutya maybe tuwe practical reality. Banga kitegeeza nti wetwanti tukikoze waliwo okuba nti tetutegeera ngeri ya kukikoramu. Are we able to communicate? Are we able to make our children our friends? How do we do that? How do we start doing it on our own?
Kati abaana tutandike kwata omwana omu tuula naye ndi babiri emyako naye akaboozi omwana wo gw'ozaala nga tokambuwadde okumufuula friend sooka omukwateko ng'ali eka bw'oba mu kisenge muyite omugambe nti Fatima jangu wangi maama atulekaawo mu kisenge omukwateko omusiimuuleko omugambe olunaku lwo lugenze lutya essomero libadde litya omanyi nti abaana wano tubayina ng'omwana asoma maama tumanyi na mwana we kyagenda kusoma abaana ne batuka okusoma ne tugamba bakaliya guidance batuyambe kuba tutute obuvunaanyizibwa abaana they are not our friends ne tuba abagonda omwana mukwate gwe wekka mutuule nga muli babiri mubuuze byayagala okusoma ng'akuze lwojja okufuna kiri nti anaamugamba ebyokumwolepinga ebyokubanga amunoonyako omukwano ayina lukolo wakubuulira kubanga omaze okutandika nga takyakutya era bw'aba afunye ekizibu ajja kudduka nga ava ku ssomero ajja agambe mami tugende mu kisenge kubanga yamanya nti bwe muba mu kisenge waliyo akababiri kemwogera kati ekyakikwata agambe mami nyina kyenjagala okukugamba jangu tugende mu kisenge aha munnange wabaddewo omulenzi tubadde tuli bwebiti ngenza okulaba omuvubuka nga nkiisinga kwegamba ng'ayina kali akagamba nti kambuulireko mukwano gwange nze ndaba seka Kayira bwe tuba tutandika.
I wish the young people listening to this conversation would hear this. I'm sure you don't speak it, but you understand it. But Hajat Farida is emphasizing here that we should make our parents, or rather our children, our friends. get close to them. But I think it's also about encouraging the children as well to become our friends. Because while the onus is put on us as parents to do that, if the children, because there are times parents have tried, life where you cannot actually matter.
Kayira njagala tukkirize abazadde mabega wonna abazadde time y'abaana ebadde teriiwo ng'era omwana bw'akyogedde abazadde okukola kubadde kuyitiridde kati tuli mu class kuyiga buyizi nze I roast era nze ojjukira nti navaako ne mu community ne ng'aba nange eno time ya family naye community n'ensooka ngiteeka ebbali nga ndaba abaana time enneetaaga abazadde tulina okumanya nti waliwo time nga omwana olina kumubeerako n'okuyingira mu kisenge kye nga taliiwo n'oyaza ebintu byempolampola nga takutegedde n'obizaawo n'omanya kiki ekigenda mu maaso. Abazadde tetubadde na budde obwo, badde njagala tubuteekewo okukula obeera taatawo teyaku ate ekyo nakyo tulekeraawo kikozesa mu community yaffe. Nze taata n'abaami bwe mukola mu bakyala, nze taata wange nolabanga akola bw'ati naawe kyoba okola. Kati taatawo teyali friend emmotoka olwayingiranga mu kukomera n'odduka emisinde kati naawe kyoyagala okuteeka ku baana no.
Ndimukuteeka ku hold katono nnyo olw'ensonga nti ndaba emikono gitandisa ate akadde kansobera buli wakatandika okusemberera ng'oli okulaba. Zaina, omukono gwo ndaba gwatuuse edda waggulu. Zaina, please, if you can go ahead, please. Zaina, welcome to the conversation. This is to remind you, this is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, in a special edition with co-presenters here, Mariam and Shamin. And we are looking at gross sexual abuse in schools, as well as the rape culture. Zaina, you have the mic.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Radio 75W, for such a terrific program. It's definitely very insightful and very informative.
Thank you.
So my views is really just to adding on Hajat Farida. In terms of building relationships with the children, what you've just mentioned clearly is understanding children's needs from their own, from individually, basically, individually. For instance, I'm going to use an example. You may have probably 3 children. Don't expect all your children to present in the same way, basically. So for instance, kati bw'oba olina abaana firstborn wo, for instance, firstborn n'abeera nga akuze naye nga agoberera gwenna amateeka gwe ng'omuzadde gw'omugambye ng'omwana. Parents shouldn't have expectation nti ne secondborn naye agenda kubeera nga firstborn, because then you end up being judgmental as a parent, you know, without knowing. And then what that leads to, obeera blocking opportunities ez'ono omwana okubeera nga asobola okubuildinga, for instance, trustworthy relationship naawe, because tatikinze all the expected boxes maama oba taata zaamusuubira nga firstborn zeyakola ki zeyakola. So okutegeera abaana from their own individual needs, abaana n'obeera nga tobalaba ku level y'emu wadde abazadde muli be bamu abaabazaala. I think to me it's a very vital factor in terms of building relations.
How many children do you have, Zaina?
Pardon me?
How many children do you have?
Oh my God. I won't be answering that question. But
okay, no, that's perfectly fine. I was just thinking, you know, when it comes to parenting sometimes,
yeah,
you know, it doesn't. If you ask me, I have 6 children and it's a basketball team and I don't have a problem with that.
All right.
Yes.
I don't have any at the moment, but I work with children basically. So I'm speaking from experience. Yes.
Okay, brilliant.
Yes. So,
okay.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Zaina. I'm only leaving you because I want to give more people a chance.
Sure.
Yes, barakallahu fikum. Sheikh Amrege Sibu. I need more, and I'd like to hear new faces as well, new people coming into the conversation, but also building into the experience of those who have been around long enough. Rahma, I can see your hand has been up. We are participating into this. Sheikh Rahma, I think you wanted to make an intervention there.
Yeah, I think
yes.
I wanted to say something after, is it Sister Farida speaking?
Yes.
She spoke about friendship and being friends with the kids.
Yes.
I just wanted to come in there and say, I don't know if I would say being friends with children, I would say being friendly
Friendly, okay, yeah.
Because when you're a parent, you still need to maintain your parental role, but you are friendly and warm, therefore encouraging your children to open up with you. And I think the second sister, Zaina, she's talking about children. I think when parents have more than one child, sometimes we can have a tendency to treat them as a group.
Yes.
What we need to do is treat each child as an individual, and it is your job as a parent to understand each one individually as an individual. The third point.
That takes a bit of work, Birahma.
Yes,
It takes a bit
definitely.
of work. I'm just thinking about my father. My father, we are 33 children.
MashaAllah.
If he was to carry an album, you can imagine those ones who carry in their money purses. In their money purses, and that's where they are carrying the photos of their children. Ours will be an album in the pocket of my dad's coat.
Yeah, but you see, parents, if you really put your mind to it, you can be very, very skilled, but it's only putting your mind to it. And I think the third bit that I was wanting to say is that it's not the work of the child to let you know who they are. It's the work of the parent to understand how your children are individually, treat them individually, and do not compare them. Do not tell, don't say to Rahma, why can't you be like Zainab?
Yes.
Don't do that.
That's your thing for parents.
And it's very easy. It's very easy to fall into that trap. And I'd like to apologize to my children if I have done that, which I think I have most likely done. Birahma, stay there, please. Sheikh Amlegea, time starts getting really crazy, and that's when the discussion really gets interesting. But it means we are touching the right chords then in that instance. Sheikh Amlegea, Sebo Akazindaro Kaina. Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Nawanisa omukono nga njagala kwongereza ku kigambo kya Adjectives Kenya. Ekyokubeera nti abazadde tweweeyo okubeera nti tusoma. Kubanga bwaga nti kino ekiseera kya kuyiga. Ebiseera ebisinga obungi abaana baffe ebiseera byatuyitako. Abamu ne bakula nga tetubamanyi. Era oli ayinza okubuuza nti mutabani w'omukulu omanyi kyali oba omumanyi, nga okujjako okumulaba n'okubeera nti omuzaala n'omutuuma amannya, you don't know him at all. Kati abazadde kyekiseera tuyige tusandike okwogera n'abaana baffe, ate tuleme kubalinda kumala kutuuka mu myaka gya kubeera ntakyasobola kubuulira kintu kyonna. Mutandike ng'akyali mwana muto okuva ku myaka 5. Tandika okwogera naye. Slowly by slowly, step by step, ojja kubeera nti omufudde mukwano gwo. Naye abaana engeri gye tubaleka ne bakula nga tetubaliiko, tuli ku mirimu, kazi, work 24/7. Abaana baffe bakuze tebatulinamu mukwano. Bangi naddala wano mu nsi zino zetuwangaliramu, bangi ate bwe kigenze e Uganda ne kisukka ate bususse. Naye nga wano bangi nnyo, era nkubira abazadde omulanga, please, bino ebizibu byonna bye tulimu, bino ebizibu byonna bye tuyingira, n'abaana baffe okubeera nti batwesiga kutubuulira kigambo, kubeera nti twabalekawo.
Sheikh, waliwo ekibuuzo kyo wano okuva mu studio okuva wa Mariam.
Sheikh Amlegea, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So abazadde bonna abazeeko mainly boogedde ku baana bawala be balina and stuff. Gweka yakwogera ku baana abalenzi. I wanted to ask you, have you taught your boys from a young age, have you ever taught them any boundaries regarding girls, or how to treat women, or how to respect women? Have you ever given them any sort of lessons regarding to women?
Yes.
What kind of lessons, if you don't mind me asking? Sorry.
Anyway, sometimes I can say I'm lucky, okubeera nti nafuba Allah yansaasira n'embeera nga nsobola okwogera n'abaana bange. Sibawala si balenzi, Allah yansaasira nti twafuuka ab'omukwano ne baba nga they tell me what they think. Ne bye balabye mu kkubo nga babikola ki? Nga babimbuulira. Kati nenfuna chance okubeera nti nsobola okwogera n'omwana omulenzi ne mugamba please weegendereze emyaka gy'otandise gijja kuleetera obuzibu bwono. Ensi ze tulimu oli bw'anaakusemberera n'omusemberera naawe oba bw'anaakusemberera n'ogaana ate oyinza okijjamu obubi ate ng'ekyo kyapeninze ku baana ba mikwano gyange bangi ne babasiba nga tebalina musango wabula nga babataddeko ekya rape olw'okuba oli yamwegomba ono omulenzi n'amugaana.
All right, brilliant. Sheikh, barakallahu fikum. Beka Tiyingi, I'm going to ask whoever is coming on, please. Let's keep it short so we don't want to delvinga to where we mukisa. And for those who haven't spoken, please remember this is an open conversation. I'll be coming to you, and please just make sure you use the opportunity and we can get talking. Beka Tiyingi, please keep it short and to gain the your points. First of all, your reaction to this situation. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
For me, I'm gonna literally say like this. Me as a person, for me as me, with this topic, I'm gonna say I blame parents. When it comes to this, there are two things that have been mentioned: culture and understanding your children. You know, I don't think many parents take time out to literally understand the country that we're living in, or even the world that it is today. You know, with my position in the community, I get told so many things by the youth of today, and they tell me so many of their issues. And we organize talks and discussions like this, but how many parents come up to actually take note, to understand, to literally understand what's happening? Because before kids tell me their stuff, sometimes they tell me, swear you're not going to tell no one. Swear that you're not going to say nothing, you know, because they feel like they can confide in me as a person, you know. So I swear, but then at the same time, I try to see how I can help them. So when we do talks like this, when we have discussions, when we organize events, we do say these issues that the kids literally air out. But how many parents come out and literally listen? Take
interest in what is being said.
One time a child literally told me she's been sexually harassed at school, basically, by her peers, but she doesn't know how to tell her parents. She doesn't want to have that conversation because she doesn't want her parents to know. But then they come for help. What do I do? What should I do? You know, so we try and find ways of how we can help them. But then you as a parent, if we come on these platforms and we air out these views, you even just, most of them think, nice, it can't be happening to my child, you know, but then go back home and sit down with your child, have that discussion. One time I made a comment, I said something and a parent made a comment in the chat that Kastana was at the mwana mwala, you know? Bakolima bokolimi na kolima because Kastana was at the mwana mwala. So with stuff like that, with people come to listen but not to understand, you know? But
right, brilliant. Becca, thank you very much. Keep to the time. I just have to be tough to be able to bring in.
I want to say something that I've experienced. When I was in school in Uganda, teachers used to sleep with students. But then we were young, we didn't really see nothing of it, you know, and we didn't we couldn't even air out our views, you know. But now the sensitizing is happening. So please, 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 let's continue having these discussions. Whenever you see a topic, please do come and listen and go back and have that conversation. It's difficult. The country that we're in now, so you as a parent, it's your responsibility. Your child is your own responsibility. Be there, willing to listen. They might
absolutely. Thank you very much, Becca. Hajat Naima Kayira, your hand has been up for long. I'll come to Hajat Sarah Semakura and Haji Jamil finally. Naima Kayira, please.
No,
thank you very much, Becca.
Just advise. One, I'm just advising parents to take parents' evening very seriously. When school sees that you are so much interested in your child's education and learning, they will tell you exactly how your child behaves in school, and they will tell you exactly who they hang out with. Are hanging around with the wrong group. So you have to have that relationship with schools. That's a very good weapon. Ekyokubiri, bogedde ku building relationship with our children or having that friendly or having that communication with children. But it's not just about how was school, what. You have to go deep. You have to have time and have those sexual conversation with your child. Not easy, but you have to start. The easiest one to start with is what they call the bikini area. The areas that cover when they go to the beach, which areas do they cover? Those are the ones obviously around the torso. You're looking at around the arm coming down. You have to tell them that is really, really untouchable. No one should ever touch that area. That's the easiest conversation you can have. And when they see you have had that sort of, you've confided in them that information, it does help. It opens up a lot more. So you're able, they're able also to feed in as, oh, so and so did this. And the other thing that parents, the last one I'm going to mention that parents should look out for people who carry your children on their laps. It's called, I think it's called throbbing. They where male, or it's mostly with the male, they do put boys and girls on their laps and make them move until they have to reach to whatever excitement they have to reach. And this young child, as he sits, he can't tell you, but the person is really sexually assaulting them. So I know we want to be comforting, we want to hold our children, please, if it's not necessary, don't do that. Or if you know that that's someone that child doesn't have that so much relationship with, do not allow them to carry them on their laps, because some male do really sexually abuse children that way.
Thank you very much, Hajat Naima. Hajat Sarah Semakura, you're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Kati nze ensonga yange gye nsinga okulaba eyokuba nti abazadde naffe tuli bamenyifu mu maka gaffe, nga ate abaana abasinga bayiga nnyo okusinziira ku ffe bwe tweyisa ng'abantu abakulu. Omwana omulenzi ajja kuwa omwana omuwala ekitiibwa nga maama oba taata naye awa maama waka ekitiibwa. Ensonga eyo tugitunulemu ng'abazadde, twewe ekitiibwa, tweyise bulungi mu maka gaffe, n'abaana bajja kuba nga batuyigirako. Ekirala nga Hajat Naima bw'agambye nti abasomesa oluusi bagezaako nnyo okutubuulira eba bifa ku baana baffe, naye ate abazadde ate ne badifendinga n'abaana nga tebannaba kutunula mu nsonga ezo. N'obudde butuwa abaana butono nnyo, emirimu gitumazeewo nnyo. Tufube okulaba kuba omuntu owookera ku makya n'ofuluma n'oyingira kiro, tomanyi na ssaawa mwana zayingidde, ekyo nakyo kireese obuzibu. Ekirala, twagala abaana naye ate tulina oluusi okubaamu ne ku tough love. Tuleme rewardinga nga bakoze ebintu ebikyamu. Bw'oba otaddewo boundaries, gwe kennyini tosooka kuzeemenyera, beera nga boundaries ezo olaba nga zibeera zigira ki, omwana ozo azifollowinga. Obudde nga bwe bugenze bannaye kankomaawo. Assalamu alaikum.
Barakallahu fiikum. Bannaye singa mbali n'abafaanana ggwe singa nannyusa edda nga n'ekiseera kijjudde. iPhone, please. Is that Agatha again or iPhone? Hello, iPhone, your hand is up. iPhone? And Haji Jamiru.
Sorry, it is Agatha.
Oh, hi, Agatha. Yes, please.
My question was, I wanted to ask parents, have you, how come you want to protect us, but you never share with us your own stories and never tell us what you went through so that we don't experience the same things? Well, because that would help us so much, because I feel like a lot of parents, they've also went through some of these things, and if they could sit us down and I know it's hard, but as kids, we do kind of understand, and you tell us your own experiences and what you've been through. In that way, you're preparing us for this world. And I feel us as kids, we're never prepared. We just get thrown out there and whatever happens, happens. But you can prepare us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Agatha.
Can I come in there for a bit?
Yes, please. Yes, Kayira.
So I think that's a very good point, but I would suggest that it is not necessary for the parents to reveal their own experiences, but they can use that experience to hold a conversation. You could even talk about it in a third person. There is something that gets in the way psychologically if a parent owns that experience. It can undermine the very thing that you're trying to do. So you could say, I know a friend of mine who did. That's all I wanted to say in there. But it's a good idea to use your experiences, as long as you don't say, that happened to me. You know, if you don't have that good relationship with your child, they will say, well, if it happened to you, let me find my own way. You know, let me make my own mistakes. A lot of young people say that to their parents.
They do, and they think they can find their way out of their own mistakes.
Especially when you say, you know, when I did that, things didn't work out. Well, they say, well, that was you. Let me try my way. But if you talk about it in the third person, it's a bit more powerful from a psychological perspective.
Barakallahu fikum. Zain, I can see you're back with your hand up. I was looking for Haj Jamil, who has disappeared.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Hey, Haj Jamil Joli. Zain, hold it, please.
All right.
Hold it there. Yes, Mazom Mufuna, whether you have Zeko. Yes, sir.
Sebo.
Say so, Kura Sebo.
Kale seo barakallahu fikum. Banange neyaziza nnyo neyanzeege.
Amin.
Omulimu gwe muliko naye nze nyinza okubeera mu opposite mu katono. Nze mblaminga ffeffe nnyini ba parents. Ffeffe nnyini abazadde tuyina problem. Tulowooza nti omwana ono bw'ayingira secondary kati ogamba nti ono muwonye gwe mbadde nga nsomba okutwala ku ssomero. Ayingidde secondary kati ayina okwetwalanga ekyo nkimaze. Kyokka ate ne mwerabira nti bw'ofunayo akalimu nga ka £30 ogenda okakole buli lwaggulo ate awo oyangwa mangu nnyo ogenda okukakola. So nga akakalimu ne bwali kaleese aka £30 n'osigala ng'okyapiikinga omwana wo ku secondary nakyo kiyambako. Kubanga nze nganze manyi emirimu gy'awano mizibu, waliwo abakola ekiro, waliwo abakola emisana, naye nganze nze nagamba nti mukyala wange bw'oba okola kiro nze nnyina okukola emisana n'embeera nga abaana bano bagenda okukomawo okuva ku ssomero nga wendi. Ekyokubiri ku bazadde bannayuganda tetwagala gendako kulya out n'abaana baffe. Okiwulira? Ekintu ekyo nakyo abaana bano buli lwogendamu nabo out n'otuula nabo ne mulya muyina ebintu bye munyumya kati ate oluusi oyinza n'okukwatamuko ku balenzi n'ogamba nti nze ffe tugenze ffe twagala kulya eno ng'abalenzi n'abawala ne bagenda bokka n'ofuna engeri gy'oyogeramu n'abalenzi. Kati nze nyinako akalenzi ke ngenda obbawaako example kali 12 ne tugenda ne tulya nako kayingidde secondary nga kakasomayo emyezi 2 naye bwe twanyumyamu nako twalinze nako naye bwe nanyumya nako ne kaŋŋamba dad you know why nze nali njogera ku bya sex bye nali nkaleetedde kati naye kye nafunayo kyali big fish n'aŋŋamba you know why dad tie nze okimanyi ku ssomero nyina abalenzi be nasiŋŋaanyeemu mu secondary nga bo bagenda kumaliriza naye kakati ffe abajja nga tukyali bapya abalenzi bano batugamba nti you know why gende eka wammwe otubbire nga earrings z'abasista bo. Oyina basista nti yes, oyina mam die tubbire nga earrings z'abasista bo neza mami wo bamami tebamanya earrings zaabwe wowe ziri buli lwajja bwati n'atunula mu kabokisi wabeera ya earring bw'aba taziraba bagamba kyamanyi zirimu eri bag don't worry agamba kanoonyimu eri bag bw'aba taziraba ng'akwata eziriwo ng'agenda mami tajja kunotisinga nti waliwo earring ezaabuze bwe keepinga ng'otubbira ng'oleeta tugenda kubeera gangayo nga tukuprotectinga wonna North London, Wood Green, South wonna omuntu yenna you make one phone call kwegamba ekintu kye nafunayo kyali big.
Yes.
Era nze nsaalira ku muzikiti Masjidi Aisha naye nagenda n'ekigamba ne imaamu waffe naye omwana yaŋŋamba nti kwegamba ebintu bye yaŋŋamba byali bingi n'aŋŋamba nti olaba ne mu ssomero bwe tuba banjigiriza engeri gy'otambulamu ne knife tugiteeka ku skin ku panti ne skin yo woteeka knife nangamba nti kati ffe engeri gye tukyali abato batugambye tulina kutambula na penny knife naye bwe tuba tunaatera okutuuka ku school gate buli omu obeera n'akaveera n'ogikweka mu fence ewantu wone wali akakomera kwega omwana yangamba ebintu bingi okiwulira right now my son talinawo wano okiwulira asomera Uganda naye nze mwennyini namugamba nti kati olaba bino ebyokuba earring tie wali ozibbyeko nangamba mbadde sinaba kuzibba ne muga you know why don't tell your sister don't tell your mom kati ngenda kuyambako abo abaana tubabbire earring nga tuzireeta okiwulira natandika ogendanga nengula fake earring I give it to my son asobole okuwa abalenzi bali kuba abalenzi bamugamba nti bw'oba toleese earring you have to give us £2 every 3 days every 2 days kati netandika okugulanga fake earring saani wange waali asobola okubabulya I'm sitting here in front of my daughters they listening byonna babimanyi bulungi okiwulira naye nali nyina okutambula naye mpola ne tutabuulira ate sasooka kubuulira my daughters nentandika okugula fake earring nga nziwasaniwa nga nzitwalira bali kati bali ne bakomawo ne bamuga your sister they wearing fake earrings nengula ne necklace ziri fake nenzimu nakomawo ne bamugamba bino toleeta your sister they wearing rubbish kwegamba naye nze nali nzize kwogera na mutabani wange manye ayingidde secondary nga manye ayinza okugwa mu nsobi nali njogera ku bya sex naye na fishingayo big massive fish
absolutely
kwegamba nze kati mbreminga nnyo bazadde tubeere nga tufaayo ku baana bano tutambule nabo
barakallahu fikum
tambule nabo kati ebigambo
obwedda nakunoonyeza nga akantu kagaana okukwata so nga otuulidde ekigambo ogaite otudde ne baddota bo bennyini actually baali badde n'abalungi nabo okuwulira their own take on this conversation osobola okuleetako kwetubuulire obwedda bawuliriza conversation were they following
my daughter yes obwedda bawuliriza naye we mutuyitidde ate olwo nga tugenze mu isha
okay can I get at least both of them just quickly to katuulire feeling yabo what they take out of this, and then I'll come to Zaina guidance series, and then inshallah we shall wrap up. It's already 10 o'clock.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, is it my time, Zaina?
Oh no, Zaina, hold on 1 second. I just wanted to finish with Haj Jamilu. Don't worry, just stay on. Stay on, please. Haj Jamilu, but then is about daughter, but where reflections are.
Yeah, but daughter very bit shy, but next time.
We can still hear them. You can remove the camera and we'll hear your voices. I just wanted to hear your own take on this, listening to this conversation, especially with the report of this gross abuse.
Yeah,
you can speak. We won't see. If you don't want us to see your face, you can remove the camera. It's perfectly fine. We just need to hear the voice, because it is important that we know that we've had a bit of impact, at least inside homes. Hello there.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. You've been listening to the conversation. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to hear what your take is into this conversation so far from what you have had.
As my dad said, I feel like it's good for a parent to develop a kind of friendship with their child, so that their child opens up to them more.
Do you open up? Do you open up to your dad? Are you free with your dad or with your mom?
Yeah, I feel like I'm free with both of them.
All right.
Yeah.
How did that happen? You know, how did you end up feeling? Not many children out there.
As my dad said, my parents have been more friendly. They have been a parent kind of, but they're more friendly with me. So it's like, even if my stomach's hurting, I can tell them. I'll tell my dad that, listen, Dad, I'm in the Chibada or something, and he knows every time I'm on it, and I don't feel shy to tell him at all as well.
That's fantastic. Okay, well, that's a good relationship. Now, hearing about this gross sexual abuse in schools, I mean, for you, were you surprised? Were you shocked? Or?
Very surprised, yeah.
You're very surprised?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you very much. I'll move to Zaina. Thank you very much for your time. Hi, Jamiru Sebuwebaninyo, Barakallahu fikum. Zaina, you have the mic, please, and we're trying to wrap up now.
Thank you. It's just a suggestion, given that the topic which is being discussed is very sensitive, and they are being very vital points that are being shared here in the chat room. I've put down some as well because due to the time constraint.
Yes, I was actually going to do them as the wrap up for me, sort of reading goes through, and I think I might be able to do that much faster than you, I can promise.
No, I'm not going to read them. I was just suggesting if we have someone, like, is there anywhere we can, I don't know, like we can note down some vital points and then share them with parents or whoever is on this platform for something that we can refer to as a process of parenting and the rest of it. It's just a suggestion.
And actually, I think what we're going to do, because this conversation now is being recorded, so we'll share a link. We'll provide a link. And through the links now, people can watch at their own time and be able to go back and watch this back. I think that's the benefit of technology now, that we're able to, at least if you've missed the conversation, then you can still watch. Okay, I planned that I'll be able to just rush or marathon through them. Let me just get guidance series, and then I'll read that and bring Bir Rahma to sort of wrap up for us, looking at the takeaways that we have. Guidance series media.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, I'll look from the direction but not mostly that buli mwana yena jokuba nti yali abused. Asobanga yonyini biba abusing abala. So this can be something abaana bano bonna basokuba ne will mu kintu kye bakola, either nga bayingira mu bikolwa ebyo nga beesiimira ku side zombi, obanga omwana yennyini yalina empisa embi ate zaakola ku banne. So the parents balina okubeera so keen okukuza abaana be n'empisa. It's the best thing they could provide to their children. Ngera Prophet weyagamba nti empisa zigiba mu bazadde ate emirimu gigiwa Allah. I can see olwaleero abaana, there's that kind of concept gye balina wakati waabwe nti nze muzadde wange ampa freedom oba ampa emirembe, ate omulala n'omulaba nga feeling sad nti they are restricting me from ABCD. Nga linyagala bamunyigiriza nga akirabira mu direction ya kunyigirizibwa, ate omulala akirabira mu direction ya freedom. So concept ya rights and freedom naye efuusa obuzibu olwaleero. Tegeeza abaana they don't select the right direction of the point why ABCD. Bolaba nti omwana buganyi temanyi wakiba muganda, temanyi wakiba mugamba okwebikira, temanyi wakiba mugamba okwambala obulungi. Amulala alaga nti yena rights tulabanze wenyambadde ebimpi tulabanze bazadde nga tebalina buzibu. So olaba nti bazadde booli be balungi. I've never been on a Zoom nga nsomesa abaana, but abeefe ebyenjawulo bali nga babiri and they were like talking wakati waabwe tubanyumyamu. Onalaga munne nti yali favored side ye kusinga ku oli, nono ne mulaba nga feelings are a bit small nti ye talina favor zone. But there is that kind of image. Barakallah fikum.
Barakallah fikum. Ndabiyo mkono kwa Daniel Rutaya. I'll just try to summarize very quickly. Nzijewa Daniel Rutaya, then I'll come to my colleagues in the studio. Actually, no, I'll go to Bir Rahma first to wrap up, and then I'll come to my co-presenters in the studio just to get their own reflections from this conversation. But I'll go through quickly some of the points that have been raised just for the record so that they are on record. Zaina here says parents who have some relationship issues with their children could at least appoint an adult as the contact person for a child to go to when a concern arises. Point number 2, address any type of sexual abuse accordingly, including reporting any type of sexual harassment to the authorities like police and social services. Then another very important point is hold accountable those doing the harassing behaviors, being family members, neighbors, friends, etc. Parents are not to ignore situations. Treat it as a joke or encourage the person who is doing the hurtful behaviors to continue, especially when a perpetrator is a family member. Then it is important to create a system, home or community that allows the children to openly and freely report incidents that they have experienced. Listen to young people carefully and respectfully. practice listening non-judgmentally, and always avoid victim blaming. That's it was a girl's problem to be touched inappropriately because of how she is dressed, etc. Parents could build trust with their children by being open, transparent, honest, and keeping it real respectfully. You cannot underestimate his or her children actively with an open mind and an open heart and being there fully for your children. I'm definitely sure I've done some justice to that in so fast a speed, Zaina. You would probably have struggled a little bit. Daniel Rutaya or Dawood, welcome to the conversation. Keep it short, please. We're just wrapping up now.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
For me, just to add on this is mainly it boils down to communication in the family. I think parents should communicate with their children at all levels, but you have to create a system. I'm gonna give a quick example. If you know the most important time to communicate with your children is when you're having dinner, you sit down on the round table and you look into their eyes, you start communicating to them, talk to them, and you can understand what has been going on during their daytime.
So no TV, no TV on the dining, is that the suggestion? No TV by the dining area?
Yeah.
No mobile phones.
So it is important.
Yes.
It is important to create a system whereby you have that important time and you talk to your children at all level. But the most important time is when you're having dinner or your luncheon. Sit down with them. Don't allow anyone to be in the living room and then do whatever they want to do in the living room, but eat together and share that important time to understand your children. They'll open up, and when there's that real trust, they will open up and start talking to you, giving you all the information which is bothering them. Thank you.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much. Birahma, if you can come up, please. We've had this conversation. It's a conversation I'm sure you've had in different scenarios or forums. We are trying to wrap up and looking at, the takeaways. What can parents take away? Zaina has provided a few of the bits, but from this particular conversation and from parents' experiences, what is your own takeaway for them?
So I think one of the things we need to think about is sexual harassment is not a new phenomenon. So we're not saying that this is something that is new. So what we need to engage with as parents is to understand that sexual harassment is not a new phenomenon, but the audience is different now. Mm-hmm. And the evidence provided by digital technology facilitates it and has opened the door for new forms of sexual harassment. So people have never been connected in the way that people are connected now. Your child can be sitting in the house with you, but they're connected to someone that you don't know. So they're in the room, but they're actually absent. They're there physically. So what we need to do is we really need to be in charge, not our gadgets and our phones and our TVs and not those things being in charge of us, but us being in charge of them. So in my work, their parents have got rules. There are some parents who have set rules. For example, I have a family that I've worked with within social services where the mom they have a basket in the room, in the living room, and by 7 o'clock, everyone's mobile phone needs to go in that basket, including the parents. So that way people are engaging. There's that human engagement, 1. 2, then they're also switching. We're disengaging from our colleagues, our friends, our family, our communities to reconnect with our families. The phones are taking over. The remote control is taking over. So children are talking to someone, they're being sexualized and they're having those sexting in front, under our noses. We don't know it's happening. So we think it happens when the children are out. It is happening in our own houses. Technology has made this whole thing happen in a very, very new, different, difficult, challenging way. So what we need to do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the brain. That means he made us better. And he talks about tafakkur and tadabbur and being people who are deep and people who are reflective and people who are using our minds. So the gadgets can't be in control. We can control the gadgets. We can, when we do that, connecting with the children is the key. But we can't connect by just having a one-off here and there. It has to be real, it has to be genuine, and it has to be emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. So you have to be present for your children on 4 levels. Only then will you be able to have these difficult conversations, and therefore the children will be able to be open with you. And if a child comes in and says something about somebody touched me, or I know somebody who is doing this, the first thing you do is you become curious. You want to hear more. You want to know what you can do to help, not to say, what were you doing with those kids? We've told you not to hang around. You shut them down. Be curious. If they say something, want to hear more, say you want to hear more, not to say, what were you doing there? That was stupid in the first place. Then they think, okay, I'm not talking. But the phones, the internet has opened up a new way of sexual abuse, sexual harassment that we've never seen before.
Barakallahu fikum bi rahma. Thank you very much. And as we wrap up, I think iPhone here says also another reason why children choose bad friends is because the bad friends are always the popular ones at school. So it's also about the rank you are in. So you're trying to really fit in. That's part of the peer pressure. Right, my co-presenters, we've had a very beautiful night. Suddenly, I mean, we are 19 minutes over 10 o'clock. Your own takeaways. Having listened to these particular conversations, what do you take away from this?
I think that I think it's been said over and over again. I think as parents, we need to provide, we need to create, like we said, that to create that unjudgmental space where these problems, they feel like we're the first people they come to, and we don't judge, we don't blame, like our sister just said, don't blame them, because if we do, they're going to be shut down, and their childhood will be, they won't enjoy their childhood, and that will affect their adulthood. Right. So I think we need to give them that assurance and create that safe space for them to come and talk to us.
For me, I was going back to the testimonies that I was reading through and what people shared. One thing I realized in common, a lot of girls don't realize they were raped until they're a bit older. And that's simply because I'm sure on Parents Forum, we had a show where we talked about the importance of the sex talk in the household. I think as we spoke about parents being more open or more friendly, I think you should be comfortable enough to teach your girls from a young age their private parts, the importance of guiding the private parts, and teach your boys the boundaries on how to respect women. And like Sheikh Kamlegia said, teach them like what collaborate and what this is the result that's going to happen. Go away, you're teaching one about to those that were listening when he was speaking. So, and then to my sisters, I know society has normalized the nudes, sending the nudes. If you have a boyfriend, they are sending me a picture. When they ask you for a picture, they don't want to see a picture of you fully covered. They're obviously asking for a picture that is revealing. And some of them, I don't know, I don't know why they ask, but there is, as we have seen, especially from celebrities, a lot of people use them as revenge.
Revenge porn.
Revenge porn.
Yes.
So whenever a man asks for your picture, please, sisters, do not send your pictures, because they can be used against you and they can really ruin your future.
But I love the boy and I want to show that I love them. They've asked me for a photo, so I'm under pressure, the peer pressure that has been discussed. How do you avoid that?
I think for me, how I can answer that is it goes back to knowing who you are as a person, knowing the boundaries that you can go. I know being in love, it's called being in love. When you're in love, you're blind. And with peer pressure, and for men that normally do that, they guilt trip you. and the testimonies that I have read, all the girls that sent the nudes, they were guilty tripped into it. So just form boundaries, be open to find that one person that you can confide in. So if you have this person pressuring you to send your nudes or something, seek guidance from someone, tell somebody so that you can be protected.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much. And what a way to probably end our conversation. Here, Mr. Abu Jamal says, Mrs. says, wonderful program. I hope actually that I'm sure you've not left the way you came into this particular conversation. A very difficult one, but we found a way of navigating it. It's really a big topic that you cannot cover just in one day. And therefore, the bit that we have covered is really the bit that we could in the circumstances. Tune in next Thursday, of course, on Ummah Connected Muslima, when they're discussing how to build better relationships with our children. So that might help actually now to start sort of adding into that particular conversation. That's it for us tonight. Yes, Birahma, is there something burning?
Yeah, there is somebody in the chat who has put in a comment talking about disagreeing with blaming the children.
Oh yes, I think I saw that and I avoided it.
So I'm not thinking we need to avoid it. I think what they're saying, what the person is saying, that they will blame the child as long as the child has got their hand in it.
Yes.
That's not called blaming. What we do is we discipline and we teach our children when they're getting involved in something that is not right. But when we blame them for being sexually abused, that won't open them up, because we're blaming them. We're saying that you are being sexually abused because of what you've done, because of you. I think that's the clarification we need to make here. Blame and teaching and disciplining are completely different things.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Birahma, for that. Naam. Eddakiika nga zimaze otuyita mukale oba waliwo akatalekeka tuli mu kuyiga. Manager akusiibula abantu with the video that I thought actually should be a way to wrap up. As I say goodbye, I'll leave you watching the video. Yes, please.
Akatalekeka abazadde baleke okubeera nti tebaagala kuwulira bibaddewo ku baana baabwe, nga Beka bwe yagambye nti omwana anoonya gw'abuulira n'akola ki? N'amubula, ate n'agamba Beka nti tobuulira abazadde bange. So abazadde tubeere open ku baana, either owuwo owa muno, tukolemu akeeka nti omwana abeera wa kyalo. Omuzadde bwe bakugamba nti omwana wo namusanze akola kino, ate tonyigira muzadde munno. Babazadde kye bakola oli n'agamba siyinza namugambako, n'amuyitawa. Naye ng'omwana amulabye mu nsobi ng'omuzadde, kyokka atya okugamba muzadde munne. Abazadde badde nsaba tubeere beerufu ku bazadde bannaffe. Bw'osanga omwana mu nsobi, fuba okulaba nti
gunjule ng'owa community. Barakallahu fikum Hajjat Farida. Now, just a quick one. Sheikh Abdul Qadir Kawoyewano ataddewo a very important thing here, a message which says, please don't forget to pray or make dua for your children, because we can do all we want in the world. Ultimately, Allah's guidance is absolutely important, and therefore that's one that we shouldn't to forget, actually. And tomorrow, don't forget, Bridging the Gap is coming up. So as I leave you tonight, Maz, what is burning? What's burning? I've already given you the closing remark. We need to say bye to people, and I need to make them sure that
it's important to say, because I feel like the topic that we're talking about is very important, and I wanted to just an advert for Parents Forum. We have an important topic, which is how can we support our children to embrace their body, their beauty, and their image. So going about what we have spoken about today, I think it falls perfect in line.
Absolutely.
So I request you, every parent that's on here, please do tune in, share your views on how we can support our kids. I'm not a parent,
and that is Thursday at night.
Thursday at night from 7.
That's a full package. So you start with Muslima women, package that, and then come in and into the Parents Forum.
Yeah.
Absolutely, what a good way to plug into the program. This is what we do here, and we do it best. Thank you very much. This is Live 75W Radio. The program was Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and was streaming live on Facebook and on Zoom. I'd like to leave you with this particular video, and thank you very much for keeping it 75W Radio and keeping it calm. Let's talk with Kassim Kayira. Just to let you know that this program, once Ramadan starts, we'll be taking a break during Ramadan because it does clash with the times of breaking fast. And therefore, we'll have to take a break over Ramadan and then pick up once Ramadan ends, inshallah. But I'll leave you with this. Please watch it before you log out. It may change what you have had tonight.
School is where children should feel safe to learn, but it's also where many young people are sexually harassed for the first time. For some, it's a shameful experience they hide. But now, a website detailing their accounts is revealing the scale of the problem. It was set up by 22-year-old Soma Sarah after talking to her friends about their shared experience.
During those school years, those teenage years, behaviors within rape culture. So this could be, catcalling, public sexual harassment, stealthing, image-based abuse, which is an umbrella term for tech abuse like revenge porn or sexting coercion. All of these behaviors were completely normalized and casually perpetrated by people I knew growing up.
Testimonies on her website paint a toxic picture of misogyny among teenagers. One girl wrote, "Boys used to run their hands up and down our thighs in lessons, up under our skirts." And after she was sexually assaulted, a young girl wrote, "I still get banter about it and wake up screaming." Soma says that part of the problem is the toxic influence of online porn.
It creates that idea that boys have an entitlement to females' bodies and consent is practically non-existent in much of pornography. And a lot of the time when I was growing up, my sex education wasn't serious. So for a lot of these people, porn was their sex education.
Social media has doubled the effect of the abuse, experts say, because it's made young girls accessible wherever they are. And schools have not caught up in their efforts to tackle issues of consent in the digital sphere.
We're not teaching young men that if they send a nude picture of their girlfriend around the school, that is unconsensual. We're not really talking about cyber flashing or the unsolicited sharing and sending of genitals to young women's inboxes, which is a huge issue. And the problem with this is that it normalizes these types of behaviors. You might think that these types of behaviors are relatively small, but it acts as a gateway for other forms of sexual violence.
In the wake of the murder of Sarah Everard, conversations about women's safety have been brought into the spotlight. Changing attitudes, campaigners say, needs to start at a much younger age. Milena Veselinovic, Sky News.
All right, and that's it for tonight. Thank you very much. Have a very blessed night, inshallah. We shall meet again very soon next week, inshallah, because we'll almost be in Ramadan and that will be the last program before actually the program takes a break until the end of Ramadan. Thank you very much for all your contributions. I cannot thank you enough. We do not take you for granted. We count on the time that you devote to us. Thank you very much and have a very good night and sweet dreams. Bismillah. في أمان الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.